Update: I found out why my girlfriend has been spying on me.
Original post. https www.reddit.com/r/relationshipadvice/comments/pc95f2/ I found weird information about myself on me/ UTM source equals share and UTM medium equals IOSAP and UTM name equals IOSSMF. I made a post the other day about my girlfriend's obsessive documentation of my routine. As some of you suggested, she does indeed have schizophrenia. The following day I asked her why she's been stalking me, to which Sa responds with, "What have you done to him?" At this point, I knew she's not right in the head and called an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctor told me she has schizophrenia, and one of her delusions was that the real me was dead and the current me was an imposter.
Because she believed I'm an imposter, she put cameras everywhere to determine if anything about me is out of character, which would prove to her that I'm not the real me. She's being treated now, but she's going to have to live with this illness for the rest of her life, unfortunately. Would you please share your experiences of schizophrenia or psychosis if you can, so I can know how to best support her? I want to thank every one of you for your advice and support.
Wow. I was afraid of that when you originally posted. I'm so glad you called the ambulance to get her help. A lot of people can and do live with schizophrenia. The key is that she gets good treatment and sticks with it. How are you feeling about all of this, op?
My wife has a cousin who developed schizophrenia and also had the imposter syndrome thing. Her boyfriend left her, but he was a douche anyways and we all hated him. He's irrelevant to my point basically, as he was abusive. Point being, she is being treated for it, medically and mentally, and is doing really well. Has a job, a good boyfriend, good friends, all that jazz. I don't know how this will turn out for your girlfriend, but it is possible to have a relatively normal relationship with her. Just have to see if she gets the help she needs and if it actually helps her. There are really good antipsychotic medications these days. It isn't like it was once upon a time. I've had family members with psychosis, and with the newer meds that are available, they are doing really well. Best wishes to both of you. Oh honey, that is so much to deal with. I hope she gets a good medication that works for her and is able to keep a healthy routine. My grandmother, who is 83 and in a nursing home, is schizophrenic. She used to talk to angels and demons in the kitchen. She was rarely on her medication. She would tell me when I was little that the fridge from Gramps' work was a portal to hell. She would stack crosses and milk crates in front of it. I loved her very much and she never hurt anyone, she just had very real hallucinations.
I live with schizophrenia and I am medicated. Unfortunately, it is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It may be a long time before she is fully stable, if ever. Some people are in and out of the hospital for years and suffer a lot of treatments until something works, while others, like myself, will never be hospitalized and function with therapy and medication. Delusions are all-consuming. They are life-upsetting. They are relationship-destroying. For example, mine are often food tampering related. So I often think I am being poisoned. Medication helps, but the real support comes from my family, my friends, my doctor, and my therapist. They support me when I can't eat because my delusions are telling me the only thing that is safe is peanut butter. They don't force me out of my comfort zone, because I am just not there yet in my treatment. Just having people to listen to the noise in my head some days is all I need. Having family that doesn't mind when I check every closet and under furniture every time I come home to make sure no one is hiding. Even if I do it multiple times, they don't get upset. My only advice to you is be patient. Be understanding. But please do not sacrifice too much of yourself for another person's care. Take care of yourself as well. Make sure she takes all prescribed medications. Every single dose. This is essential for both of your safety and well-being. Edit to add. Op. If your GF is between 22 to 25, it is possible this was triggered by age. I didn't get diagnosed until I was 22. But I was symptomatic younger and diagnosed with anxiety. Also could have been triggered by drugs, trauma, stress. My best advice is to support her in the near future and try to work together. She's probably going to be pretty scared coming out of the episode. And I'm sure she needs someone to comfort her. I honestly think it depends on the person specifically. If it gets too much for you, then it does. But it could also be something you are able to handle. And could be she never gets aggressive or violent. I think you'll know with a bit of time. Give it a few years to propose. If you really are meant to be together forever, a couple years won't matter. The best you can do is reach out to mental health care professionals of your own. They will be able not only to give you good guides on how to take care of her needs but also how to make sure that your own needs and well-being don't fall short. Right now it may even be too early for advice overall, and you should first wait and see how her mental state is looking after some of the initial treatment, so that you have a better picture of what personality and what challenges you two will have to work with. Yikes. Sounds like you handled that as well as you could have. Psychosis is really fucking scary. My brother went through it last year. He was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. But even the psychiatrist wasn't really sure. The Schizoaffective page has some good advice for people who have dealt with or love people with psychosis. Not sure about the schizophrenia subreddit. Heard it was harder to join. But I may be wrong. The book, I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help, is also a REAAAALLY excellent resource for people whose loved ones are going through psychosis. If she finds medication that works for her, that's the best option, but it may take some time. Some people have a psychotic episode and then return to normal, with maybe an episode here or there. Some people don't really return to a normal life. I think you might have to give it time and see how this goes. My aunt had schizophrenia for most of her life. Diagnosed in her early 20s. It's a difficult thing to deal with. And I'm sorry you're both in this position. From what I witnessed of her life, it wasn't easy. Relationships were very difficult for her. When the medications were correct, and she was taking them, she was fairly normal. But the drugs are very hard on people, and she often would go off of them, resulting in dangerous mental breakdowns, usually including hospitalizations. She also had bipolar disorder as well, so perhaps that played a larger part in the massive ups and downs of her moods. And with the drugs she had to take all her life being so aggressive, she ended up dying fairly young, late 50s. Her true identity was that of a very kind and loving person, though, so it's hard to see someone you care about go through all that suffering. I truly hope the best for you both. My dad had it, and at one point he thought my siblings and I were government clones sent to spy on him, and the real kids had been killed off. He tried to kill us multiple times throughout my childhood. Make sure she takes her medication, even if she doesn't want to. I saw this on the front page today. https www.medscape.com/viewarticle/957972. I dated someone that was schizophrenic for 5 years and had to eventually leave for my own mental health because they would feel normal and stop taking their meds. I hope that the meds that are mentioned in the link above are available to anyone that needs them. You really helped your girlfriend out by calling the ambulance. I wish you all of the luck in the world. Op.
Are you staying with her?
Are there any support groups in your area for the so of people living with mental illness? Perhaps a social worker or someone at the hospital can make a recommendation. You're a good guy, Op. And good luck to you. My friend, housemate, just went through a period of something akin to schizophrenia or psychosis. Although he didn't want to give us his actual diagnosis, his behavior while he was sick was concerning. Although he never actually did anything dangerous to anyone, I became nervous to be left alone with him. When we eventually managed to get him some help, he was taken to hospital and treated in an unsecure ward for about a month before we could get over to visit him. And we had no idea what to expect. Honestly, the difference in him was immediately apparent and so amazing I could have cried with relief. He's always been unique. And he always will be. But he even let go of behaviors we believed to just be him. Like turning off the Wi-Fi router because he could feel the radiation. If your relationship has been strong and happy enough before this for you to consider proposing to her, then with treatment, there's a good chance she'll return to who she was before this episode. I think you should just try to be there for her for now. Let things settle down again and try to figure out over time how stable your lives will or won't be. I'm told by friends who have experience with this kind of illness that sufferers often decide they don't need their meds anymore and relapse. Which is really hard. I hope it works out for you both. There is a girl on TikTok that I follow. Her username is @KendallSeagroves. She also has schizophrenia, but she has such a great positive outlook on life and just laughs and jokes about it as a way of coping. It really opened my eyes to see how someone can live with it and thrive and be successful. Anyways, she is one example. But I know there are so many other people who live with it as well. Sounds like she has a great support in you though. Honestly, if you value your sanity, leave. My father has schizophrenia, paranoid delusions, God complex and morbid jealousy brought on through years of drugs and a blow to the head. The person he was, I remember growing up with, to the person who he changed into. Very quick change, mind you. Was night and day. And dealing with him and his mental issues was life-crippling. My parents ended up divorcing because my mother couldn't handle him anymore. Even on the best drugs available, he was still a complete nightmare to deal with. I continued dealing with my father after the divorce for several years, but even our relationship got to the point where I had to cut contact due to his mental issues. We now haven't spoken in about 12 years. It's been mentioned multiple times already, but from my experience, treatment is the key. Over 10 years ago I dated a dude with that diagnosis. Wasn't aware of it though. He told me he has a depression. And those 4 months have been quite a roller coaster. He lived 100 kilometers away and I only had information he gave me. When he started to claim he was robbed, his nose was broken, and a week later he showed up and didn't look like it. I found it only odd. Then he would claim drug dealers. He was clean at the time. Would bang on his door the whole night. He came to me that night after, and it was right before I had my driver's license test. Before my test, I had called his boss to tell them he's sick and what happened because I believed it. Nothing of that ever happened. Talked to a coworker who was some kind of a father figure on the job, and he could explain a lot. At some point, ex-BF admitted that he had thrown all his meds in the toilet and felt free. So apparently that's why he acted out like that. I broke up when he relapsed with his drugs. The bad ones. That was all a bit too much for a 17-yo. Not gonna lie. My mom had schizophrenia her whole life. It can be a very, very difficult thing to live with someone who has it. But at the same time, it can be medicated and someone with it can live a completely healthy, normal life. It's different for each person. My mom has had delusions similar to what you described. Believing that me and my siblings had been replaced. Or that we were actually somewhere else or in a different reality. Another was that she was the victim of some grand conspiracy and had been set up and trapped. Somehow. It's not like a normal illness. It can very hard to find out what's actually wrong. And even harder to fix. And there's often multiple different things at play. Sometimes it is full-on delusions and psychosis and seeming crazy. Sometimes it's more like depression and general disorganized thinking whilst seeming more sane. People often don't realize how complex it is. And in how many different ways it can manifest. My mom, like a lot of sufferers, has had long periods of perfect normality. And then has relapses. She's had periods longer than a decade where she's been perfectly okay and you literally wouldn't know she had any mental illness unless you looked at her records. She's also had long periods where she's been quite unwell. The most recent one lasting around 4 to 5 years, and for the worst of that she was hospitalized for around 6 months. In my personal opinion and based on my experiences with my mom, the best way to get help is often to get the person hospitalized and sectioned. This is if other methods aren't working, i.e. seeing a doctor and trying medication, which we tried for years. In my country, the UK, it's hard to actually get someone sectioned and hospitalized. Generally, if the person is refusing to voluntarily get help. This can only be done if the person is posing an immediate and clear threat of violence to themselves or other people. My mom was very mentally ill for a long time. Had some very bad delusions, and it was severely affecting her mental health and her life as well as the rest of the family. But the doctors weren't willing to hospitalize her because she wasn't a threat. And she was also capable of putting on a somewhat normal act when doctors came for appointments. She was getting worse. So eventually we decided we needed to stretch the truth a bit. And we lied and said she had become violent and had made threats. Because this was the only way to get her into a hospital where she could get proper treatment. And it worked. Because they could monitor her properly and medicate her properly. And she came out. And since then has gradually gotten better and better. Not saying that that's always necessary. But sometimes you have to take drastic actions to save someone you love. From the bottom of my heart, mate, I wish you all the love and strength to deal with this. I know how hard it can be.
Well, that escalated quickly. I thought she was compiling a nice list of things to talk about at a surprise party. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.